Happy Friday, happy Friday. Welcome to Insta Chat with the Journalist. Today I'll be chatting with Pruluv. Yeah, she's like a very talented DJ slash producer slash radio presenter slash writer. So yeah, man, I can't wait. Oh, she just joined. So let me just and then let's get the ball rolling. Let me just balance this thing nicely. Sorry, guys.
Hey!
Hello. How
How
are
are
you?
you?
I'm
I'm
cold.
great.
I'm cold.
I know. Look at me, the jacket I'm wearing, guys. Yo, this weather.
Yeah, it's too much. But it's winter, man.
Yeah,
What
it's
can we do?
ish, but with COVID-19, lockdown, everything, it's just terrible.
Yeah, yeah. No, I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. How long has it been? 2 years? 3 years?
Whew. Wow. And there was a time, there was a time when I used to see you like every other day. Like I knew it. I used to see you like every 2, 3 days. When you were
Oh,
still a
yes.
blogger.
Yes. And then, like, when we were party animals,
Yeah, yeah. And then I don't know
when
what
we were
happened to you.
young. Yeah, young, wild, and free.
Yeah, and then you disappeared from the scene and you just focused on work. And the only time that I hear you it was on radio and or when you're doing work or when you're playing somewhere. You kind of like disappeared from the social scene and you became super focused and things really started taking off for you. But but you tell us all about it. Anyway, man, for those who don't know you, what's your name? What are you about?
Okay, I am DJ Pruluv. My name is Prudence Mathebula. As you mentioned in your intro, I am a club DJ. I'm a radio presenter, producer on Metro FM. I'm an MC, motivational speaker, and also used to be a basketball player.
Oh,
Yeah,
so you,
that's a
you don't
story for another day. Yeah, so I'm just, yeah, but I'm still that girl from next door.
Wow. So wow, you don't play basketball anymore. And I put it boldly in my tweet. I'm like, yo, because I know you're a baller.
You, yeah, I had to mention because you put it there, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I've been trying to come back. You wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. Wilson Binkosi on Metro FM challenged me to play basketball with him, and that was 2 years ago. And I'm like, no,
Wow.
I'll do it till this day. So, ish, yeah, it's rough. It's rough. But once I get into shape, definitely that's the first avenue I'm going into.
Okay. Wow, man. And that's what I like about you. You're not scared to put yourself out there to explore,
Yeah.
all your passions as a creative. But I just want to start with, how we met. When I met you, you were a blogger. You were producing also, I think, at the time. But my introduction to you was like you were a writer slash blogger. So yeah, tell me about that. Are you still writing?
Yeah, I think when we met, it was actually before I joined Metro FM, if I'm not mistaken, strange enough.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was still working in the banking sector. I was actually in IT, but in the banking sector. And that's when I actually joined TVSA, which is the TV blog, the most popular TV blog. And yeah, it was just so awesome to write for TVSA because when I started, like day one, I was just a feature writer. So for me, that was huge encouragement. But I've always been a writer. That's what people don't know. I've been a writer from my school days. Geez, I've won writing competitions, poetry competitions. I mean, I'm even in an anthology, a world anthology where I'm the only South African in that anthology. So poetry and writing has been something that has existed throughout my life. Actually, even now during lockdown, I've been putting some stuff together, you know, because now since we can't go out gigging, so being stuck at home meant that I now had some time to go back to the things that I love doing, which is definitely writing. So I am writing a book. It's
Wow,
gonna be,
exclusive.
I don't want to say too much about it because, yeah, a lot of people don't know that I'm writing a book. This is actually my second book that I'm writing. There is a book that I wrote, completed, but I've never published it.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is the second one, and I'm still writing it. You wouldn't believe it. I started writing the book, if I'm not mistaken, 10 or 11 years ago. So I keep on
Whoa.
writing, adding stuff, adding stuff. And you know, something about me, especially when it comes to like the writing, I am certain that I don't want it to just be a book. It's it's going to be something major. That's my vision, something more than just a book, which is why I'm not in a hurry to publish any of my books. I just want to keep on writing, and then when the time is right, I'll definitely then publish the books. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of work involved with the book, and I want to be in control of it, which is why for now it just wouldn't make sense because I'm so hectic with everything else. So yeah, something that I will be doing in the future. Even when I started writing, I knew that I wouldn't publish the book anytime soon. I knew that that was the plan.
Mm.
So yeah, definitely to answer your question, I've definitely been writing.
Look, you know what? Like, I didn't even know that, I knew that you can write, but I didn't know that you had a book that's completed and then now you're working on the second one. So, that's an exclusive one for me right here. So that's,
Yeah, I've
that's,
never said it to anyone.
that is very, very dope. And I hope that, you will publish the book, one day, hopefully soon. And writing is a very personal thing, so I'm not even gonna try and ask you
Yeah,
to reveal more about your book and when you're gonna drop it. I don't want to add pressure on you as a creative because I really, really understand. But yo, that is super dope. When you're ready, hit me up. I'll grab a copy, and
I
yeah, that's
will.
that's super exciting. What is it about writers? I've realized that a lot of people that are journalists or writers also have a very deep passion for music, particularly DJing. But a lot of people, especially in the media space, are bedroom DJs. They don't really put themselves out there. But I've realized that writing and
You're
DJing,
talking about
they're very,
yourself.
not just me, like, like you'd be surprised. They like a lot of journalists are actually DJs or bedroom DJs. It depends on how far you want to take it. So I just want
Yeah.
to hear from you. Why do you think it's like that?
It's weird because I've never really thought that um, there are many DJs slash writers that have that connection. But I would say then, for me, it's been something that's been there. Like I'm saying, like writing was something that I did in school. So you can imagine, so it's not something new. And music is something again that I look back at and realize that my passion for music started when I was still in primary school. I remember I was doing ballet, by the way. Yeah.
Wow.
I was yeah, I
Layers.
was yes, a little ballerina there. And I recall I told our ballet teacher one day that I wanted to choreograph the dance moves because I was very knowledgeable in terms of music. And the woman is like, "Child, what are you on about?" And I convinced her. I literally convinced the teacher that I wanted to choreograph everything. I want to do the dance moves. I want to come up with the music. And, she had faith in me, so she let me do it. And what I did then, because ballet is more classic music, I
Mm-hmm.
then introduced R&B. And my fellow ballet dancers, they gave me that look like, yo, this girl is too much. So for me, I would say that I think somehow you're right in that writing and music, they marry each other. Because remember, when you create music, music is disciplined as much as we don't realize it, because I mean, we are here. Music is very disciplined. It's got protocols, it's got standards that you need to follow. Very much like writing. You can't just write anything. It's also disciplined. The standards that you need to follow. There's the intro, the body, the ending, all those type of things. So I think it's more about that they marry each other because of the discipline that is involved, and more so because both I would say both mediums, they're all about expressing oneself. When you listen to music, I mean, you can, okay, like, let's talk about proper songs because yeah, almost something, and then people would dispute that. When you talk about proper songs, it starts with writing. It starts with
True.
writing. And for you to have a good song, a meaningful song that touches people's hearts, you need to write it down. And it's from the writing that you would see where the song would actually go. So I guess maybe that's where it all begins. And I mean, one of the biggest music genres, hip hop, is actually spoken word, meaning that you had to
Yeah.
write it. It's poetry that is spoken. So I guess maybe that's why those two are so closely linked, that we write, we express ourselves in writing, and we express ourselves in music. And you see, again, they all marry each other. You write something, then it's portrayed in music, then it's portrayed in dance. And I guess maybe that's why then writers would then become DJs, because you're writing something, it's created into a song, and people receive it through dancing. So yeah. And I
Yeah.
figured that out just now, by the way.
But you're thinking on your feet. uh,
Yes,
Sandy Lennon
you have
says,
to.
uh, Sandy Nene says, he's also like a bedroom DJ. So Sandy Nene, I think his real name is Sandile. He's from Durban.
Yeah.
He's a blogger as well and a publicist as well. I didn't know that
Wow.
he's a DJ. So Sandy, maybe I must have you on too, man,
So you're
so that we
right.
can talk about it. Yeah,
Look at you.
yeah,
You're a
yeah.
prophet as well.
And then someone is crushing on you, but if it's fine, we'll get to that later. So
Okay.
you have a lot of admirers, man. When I posted you on my WhatsApp, there's a lady, a girl actually. I don't want to call her a lady because I'm making her sound old. She's like an aspiring media personality, and she was asking me if you can mentor her. And I was like, hey, we'll see. Joining the chat. Her name is Palis. I don't know if she's here, but if she's watching, Palisa, say something. But she's just inspired by you because you are behind the scenes and you're also putting yourself out there. So I just want to know, like, because obviously you started by being behind the scenes, right? And then
Yeah.
by producing for people on radio, by writing for blogs and all that. And then one day you decided that, you know what, I actually want to be in in public. I want to put myself out there. I'm gonna DJ on the decks in front of thousands of people watching. Like, what made you decide to take that leap?
Well, so here's something that people will not be aware of. I actually started radio as a presenter, not as a producer.
Really?
So, yeah, that's what people don't know. They think I started as a producer, but I didn't start off as a producer. I was a presenter. So how then everything happened is that, so as I did mention that I was working in the banking sector, but in IT. I studied IT, by the way. So at that time, I was an analyst programmer, then went on to become a business analyst and a project manager. So that was that time that I started tapping into radio. So I started off with the community radio station, which was Radio Veritas. It was a Catholic radio station, by the way. And but my first time on radio, my very first time on radio was on YFM. It was on YFM. My sister had won a competition on Bondon Tuli's show, which was an evening show. You know, those love movement
Mm-hmm.
shows. from 9 till 12. So my sister won a competition there, and we were invited to come through. Actually, Asia, no, I'm name dropping. You know, I'm taking the shine from my sister. She was invited, and she brought us along. So when we
Yeah.
got there, of course, me being me, there I was, blah, 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 blah. I went on and on and on. So Bondo was quite impressed with our views. He was obviously presenting the show all by himself. And as a male, you know, when you talk about love, matters of love, he just needed a female's opinion. So he started calling us on a weekly basis. And that was actually our start on radio. Thereafter, for me, strange enough, I actually prayed to God about it. I asked God, God, what is my passion? And what's my purpose actually? And God showed me radio, which was kind of weird because, I mean, studying IT, you know, to even get into the IT field, to study, to be accepted into IT, you need to have, you know, a certain academic record. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine from IT, you know, doing so well, and then boom, God is like, yeah, radio and the entertainment industry. It just didn't make sense because I was thinking that God will say that my purpose is to be the next president, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it all started there. And when I decided then to heed my call, we started then putting out demos. It was my sister and I, and that's how we got into Radio Veritas. We were called for an audition, and on the day of the audition, they just gave us the show. So it was an audition and a show all together, and that's how we got into radio. So I
Wow.
started presenting the show, yeah, on the same day on Radio Veritas. It was called Youth Wise. It was a youth show. It was a talk show. So we did it every evening, Monday to Thursday. So that's where I started. But remember that for me to have done that, I was still working full time and studying, by the way. So I
Wow.
was doing everything all at once. And I was a project manager at Backroom Lounge. Well, yeah, I'm giving away my age. But you know Icon Soweto? You know
Yeah, I
Icon
know.
Soweto? That used to be Backroom Lounge. So yeah, I just gave away my age. So, but I was still young. I was still very young. I think I was like, 20, 21, around there. And no, I was 21. I was over 21, yeah. So that's what I was doing. So I was doing everything all in one. And it just got too hectic for me. It just got too hectic. So that's when I left, firstly, the club. So that's how I also got into the club scene as a manager, an events manager. I was managing events and projects. Then I also left radio so that I could complete then my IT qualification and also then focus on IT because it was quite demanding. I was an IT developer. So as an IT developer, you get called out and all of that. So you've got an 8-hour day. Then you still have to work afterwards because there's call out. So you get called any given time to fix issues. So yeah, it was a bit demanding. So what happened is that, yeah, after I gave my full attention to IT, I realized that I needed to go back to the calling that God told me about. So when I did that, that's when so what I did, I was actually on Facebook. I was following like all these people in media and all of that. And one day, Fistus Mixwell posted about an internship that Metro FM was having. So they were looking for producers. And I thought, hey, this is the perfect opportunity then to make that comeback into radio. And I think when I took up the opportunity, it was more a thing of me realizing that I needed to follow my calling. And if I wanted to follow my calling, it meant that it would need to be a career. I wasn't going to do it as that part-time thing like I was doing all along. So yeah, that's what I then did. I started off then as an intern on Metro FM. It was on Fridays with Tivo Touch. Hey, it was called House of Swag. So I was a producer there, and Fistus, it was actually House of Swag. It was Tibo Touch and Fistus were the presenters. Then Fistus became the acting programs manager, he left room there. So I then ended up co-hosting with Tibo Touch. So that's how then it all started with the production. And it was then that I made the decision that because I'm going to make radio my career, and the entertainment industry, is very large. And I didn't know anything about it. Remember, I'm all about books, IT, banking, nerdy stuff. For me to make a career switch, I felt that I needed to learn more about it. And unfortunately, I knew there wouldn't be time for me to go and study media or the entertainment industry. So I decided that I was going to learn on the job. And that's why I then chose to become a producer. And the other reason I wanted to become a producer is because I saw what was already happening in the entertainment industry at that time, back then, that, females, especially females, you're you're the flavor of the month today, tomorrow you're gone because you've got nothing more to offer. You're just a beautiful face or you're a good voice, but there's nothing more to you. There's nothing more for you to offer. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to make that mistake of leaving one lucrative, because I mean, IT is a lucrative career. I didn't want to leave a lucrative career to come and do something and the next thing I've got regret. So I thought very much about it. I thought very long and hard about it, that I'll start at the bottom. I wanted to really learn about the industry. So in being a producer, it gave me a lot of time to learn. And I think a lot of people in this industry don't give themselves that time to learn. They just want to get in, boom, become famous, and then they don't realize that this industry is fickle. You come in, you're famous, you come in with a bang, and you're out completely. Because I look at some of the people that I started off with, where are they today? They're gone. Like, it's as if they didn't even come into this industry. Some of them I found in the industry. Some of them I thought they would last long in the industry. But you see, it's exactly what I was saying, that if you don't learn the industry you're getting into and you don't take it seriously, it's going to spit you out. And the other thing as well, knowing that our industry is not really friendly to females, I felt that starting off as a producer would mean that I'll be able to own my own content. I would own my own ideas, and then I can grow from there. So that's how then the whole production thing came about. And by the way, I was a trained speaker even before I joined Metro FM. So you see, everything was like presenter, presenter, presenter. But for business purposes, I chose to become a producer. I was a trained speaker through wow, did I just, yeah, I forgot.
You forgot the institution.
Imagine, like, Toastmasters.
Okay.
Yes, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with Toastmasters.
No, I'm not. What do they train people to speak
Yes.
about the media?
No, to be to be a good speaker, if I could say that, to be able to stand in front of a crowd and be a good speaker. So they teach you a lot of things about speaking, and it's not only about being in the media. For people to be able to conduct presentations, to be able to speak confidently in meetings, for pitches. So it's very broad, and I was trained through that. So in terms of speaking, that's always been, I would say, my strong point. So knowing that that was my strength, I then needed to start with my weakness, which was understanding and knowing the industry. I didn't know anyone who was in the entertainment industry, so I couldn't be going to someone to get notes. I had to learn firsthand. And so production really worked very well for me. Writing, blogging, I mean, the life that we're exposed to as bloggers, the gigs we went to. For me personally, I needed that because I wouldn't have known how fickle this industry is. And even before becoming a club DJ, I needed to be a party person, a party lover, for me to be in the crowd, to understand the crowd, so that when I do play, I'm playing for people I know, who in terms of what they love, what they understand.
Wow. So you know what? Like the more I get to know you through this, I mean, I know you, but the more you explain your career, it's like, first of all, I had no idea that you were in the IT sector, and then you were a business analyst. Like that is hectic, and I can just imagine now because I know you as a creative, right? So
Yeah,
that must have been like very difficult for you, to be in the IT space, but your heart is in the media game. But I really appreciate the fact that
true,
you
true.
you took your time to learn. I guess from that sector, from the corporate sector, you understood that you need to learn something so that you can understand it, so that you can be good at it. And in the media industry,
Exactly.
it doesn't work like that for most people because people just get in, like you
Yeah,
said, and then they became the flavor of the month, and then it's gone. So that's
true.
very interesting. And I just want to touch like the last point about producing. I remember I was speaking to Pila a
Yeah,
couple of last year actually, and I was like, and we were talking about how hectic the media industry is, and I was like, but you have a morning show as a producer, so after the show at 9 o'clock, you have the whole day to yourself. And she's like, no, 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 I need to go back and do research, and so just
yeah.
take us through the day of like a producer, a radio producer.
Okay, she's very right. Actually, by the way, Pila is one of my very good friends. Uh, yeah, very, very cool person. So, in terms of producing, you see that those are the things that you would have never known until you did them yourself, which is why I will forever be grateful for making a mature decision as young as I was to first learn before jumping in full speed. Because at the end of the day, I mean, so many people told me like, Mara, you've got the face, you've got the voice, just go into it. But I knew what was lying ahead, that hey, the voice, the face will fool me. And also I didn't want to put myself in a position where I needed to then do some dodgy things, things that would compromise myself, my values, to then get ahead, because yeah, it gets really tough. So in terms of producing, as I said, even with the DJing, I needed to be in the audience for me to understand the whole vibe, the whole vibe of a DJ playing for the crowd. So even exactly like radio, I was an avid radio listener. I recall that I used to listen a lot to Glenn Lewis. I
Mhm.
always tell him, like, if there's one DJ, as in a radio DJ, radio presenter, that I go gaga over in South Africa, it's Glenn Lewis. Reason being, I used to listen to Glenn Lewis when I was in primary school, when I was in high school, when I was at varsity, when I started working, and then boom, I started working with him. And
Wow.
here's the thing about Glenn. He's remained relevant throughout. Because imagine, for me as a primary school kid, I related to him. As a high school kid, I related to him. As a varsity kid, I related to him. As an adult that started working, I related to him until I worked with him. So that was one person that I really looked up to. I still look up to him. He's so humble, so professional in so many ways. So, with that said, when I was a listener before I joined radio full time, I would have ideas. I would be sitting in the car like, but why aren't these people talking about this? This topic doesn't work. Man, people wouldn't want to be hearing such at this time of the day. And by the way, I had no idea at that time that I was going to get into radio or be on Metro FM for that matter. So for me, I would say it was the preparation of getting into radio at that point, that the concept, the ideas that I had before I put them in paper, I put them on paper and put them into practice.
Mm.
So as time went by, that's when then the internship came about. And because it was a Friday show, it was more music based. I didn't do much content. But here's the thing, and people actually don't realize that everything you do in life, it counts. It will count towards whatever it is that you're going into in the future. God works like that.
Mm.
Nothing It's for mahala. You're not going to regret anything. Even your mistakes, they're going to work for your benefit. So everything that I had done, like I mentioned, the IT, working in the banking sector, managing events, when Metro FM needed a producer for the afternoon drive show, the new afternoon drive show, which was the Touchdown, the programs manager sat down with me and told me that based on my resume, which is so varied, and being a writer, being a blogger, she said I'm the right person, because at the end of the day, when you look at the target market of Metro FM, we're talking to 25-year-olds to 35-year-olds. So she said that I was a target market. I think at the time I was 24 or 25. So being the target market meant that the show is talking to me. So as a producer, it starts there. You're not doing a show just in J, because when now you're a producer and all of that. It's all about the people. So if you don't understand the people, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I then tapped into that person, me that was behind the wheels, listening to Glenn Lewis's show, coming up with ideas. And here's the irony. I was listening to Glenn in the afternoon, and little did I know that I would then produce that same show that I used to critique. So I would really say that God works in miraculous ways, because every idea that I had, I literally put it into the Touchdown. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I would say I was producing the show in my head for all those years whilst listening to Glenn's show. Like, man, they must do this, they must play that. And it was such an honor for God to then give me that space to then produce the show. And I couldn't believe it when they said that I had 100% responsibility of coming up with the show. They didn't interfere. They just said, come up with the show Monday to Friday. And you're thinking, what?
Wow.
The biggest show on Metro FM, which would obviously mean the biggest show in South Africa. And you're giving me full responsibility. So I put then those ideas into paper. We sat down with the team. I presented my ideas. They were blown away. They were shocked. Like, did you really prepare the show all those years back? I'm like, it was always in my head. So in terms of production, it starts there, understanding your audience and understanding where they're at. For example, an afternoon drive show, you cannot prepare for it the same way that you would prepare for the morning show. The content cannot be the same. So those are the basics before you even start doing anything for the show. And once then you've mastered your basics, then you are able then to start coming up with content for each day. So, for example, I mean, with the Touchdown, I recall on Monday, we got into so much trouble. On Monday, I felt that because a lot of people, they view Monday negatively, it's always the blue Monday blues. And I then decided that Mondays needed to change. We shouldn't be seeing Mondays as a blue Monday, because that's a day we're going to go through every single week. Imagine complaining every single week. It just doesn't make sense. So that's when we then introduced Monday motivation, and with Monday motivation, it means that you are motivated throughout the show. So for the 3 hours, it was about coming up with content that will motivate people so that they don't look at Monday in a negative way. So we came up with things like Monday replenishment, which was the gospel segment. I'm not sure if you recall, but it was so popular and got us in a lot of trouble.
That, I lost you there for a sec. I don't know if you can hear me. Yo, Prue, can you hear me? Guys, I lost Prue. I think it's the network.
It was about changing the narrative. Again, as a producer, you want to be different from every other producer that came about. So for me, Monday was going to be positive. I wanted people to look forward to Monday. And that's how then we came up with the content for Monday. Positivity all the way, good news all the way. And again, remember that I was in the corporate sector. So always having in mind that our listeners are normally those people that are in the corporate sector, that are on the road. They come from a long day in the office with the horrible boss and those colleagues that just annoy you. You don't want to be hearing about things that will remind you of work. If anything, when you come into your car, you want to switch off, forget about this bad world that is called work, and have a show that you look forward to. And yeah, I mean, that's how then I started preparing for the content on the touchdown. So on a daily basis, then based on the type of show and theme that you have for the day, immediately when the show ends on air, we start. So you, as a content producer, you end up working way more hours because there's the 3 hours of the live show. And during the live show, you're a director, you're a producer. Yeah, you do all these roles all in one. And I think that content producers don't get the credit that they deserve. A lot of content producers give their lives they literally give their lives for their shows. I remember, like, even for me, when I started the touchdown, you wouldn't believe it. I would leave at like 3 a.m. From 3 p.m. I would leave at 3 a.m. because after the show from 6, you're always thinking of something epic. For me, that's how that was the approach for the touchdown. I wanted to make sure that the touchdown was like nothing ever that anyone had ever heard on radio, whether locally or abroad. So I mean, that was the type of effort that I put in. So as you did mention, that my colleague Upila is very right, that after the show ends, you're starting to prepare for the next day. You're starting to come up with ideas. And sometimes you even prepare way ahead. I mean, with interviews, we prepare for interviews weeks in advance, sometimes a week ahead or even months ahead. I mean, for example, like Youth Month, you already know that you're targeting young people. So maybe you want to have young artists coming through to perform on the show. So you would then need to contact them like a month in advance so that you fill up the month. So you're not now panicking, trying to get people at the last minute. So that's the type of preparation that comes into it. And each day is different, but yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
Damn, you know what? We spent like almost 40 minutes talking about radio. But I just last question about radio. When you're presenting a show and then the presenter says something, controversial, or they get into
Yeah.
trouble, who do you also get into trouble, or is it just the presenter?
Well, it depends, and it's so amazing when you mention controversy. The first person that came to my mind is Fejo. So, yeah, that's what is crazy. That one is crazy. So it depends. Obviously, if I put it in the script, as in it was part of the content that I came up with. So maybe let me make an example. Let me talk about Unkosazana Dlamini Zuma and the whole Zol and cigarette ban. Maybe if I had incited something that would then make the presenter say something controversial, obviously, when they do the investigation, they roll it back, they'll find out that it was my fault because why am I talking about Zol and making fun out of, I mean, yeah, like making something that is so serious into a joke. And by me then setting it up like that, by default, the presenter was going to fall into the trap and they were going to say something controversial. So something like when people Zol, other radio stations do not permit you to be making such jokes. It's in contravention with a lot of things, and you can be taken to the BCCSA. So I could probably find that very funny. Because, I mean, everyone is talking about it when people's role, it's even a song. But then someone can take me to BCCSA for finding humor in something that is not humorous. And then the presenter goes and says that on air. So if I wrote it, if it was my idea, then we both get into trouble. But if now they start talking about other things that I did not write and I did not say to them, then yeah, they would stand alone in terms of that issue.
Yeah, no, man, radio is very interesting. Very, very interesting
It
space.
is.
Uh,
It really,
yeah. Do you think radio will die?
definitely not. Definitely not. I think in terms of the medium itself, it will definitely never die, regardless of technology. And I say this obviously as someone who studied technology and worked in technology. I know that there's always been this fear that technology is going to replace everything. I do not believe that radio will be one of those mediums that will be replaced by technology. But in terms of the culture of radio, yeah, I feel that it is dying.
Mm,
It's definitely dying because we're not hitting it the way that we're supposed to. You know, when, for example, I look at myself, my interest in radio was listening to people like I mentioned, Glenn Lewis, Abo Kabzela, people that you could tell just by listening that they have a passion for the medium. So
mm,
when we now remove passion and replace it with popularity, we obviously kill the culture of radio because radio is now becoming more about making a quick buck, people becoming famous, using their fame and following to get a slot, and you do an in and out type of show where you can even listen to the show. You can listen to some of the people that are on air, and you can tell that this person is really not into this. It's sad. You can tell when a person is not into something, that they're not passionate about it. They're just doing it, for whatever reason, to get the next paycheck because they're
mm.
popular. So I think that is definitely killing the culture of radio. Definitely.
And that's a very interesting thing that you touched on. I call them influencer DJs, influencer
Yeah.
presenters. People book people based on their social media following, and it's debatable because as a promoter, for example, a DJ with more followers means more people are going to come and look at that particular person, and at the end of the day, you want your event to be, you want people to actually come in, but at the same time, you also want talent. So it's a
You're
debatable
crowd
issue.
puller.
Yeah, it's a debatable issue because I mean, yeah, social media. I think that social media stars are also valid, because I mean they have a following for a reason. So
It's
yeah.
true. It's true. But remember that the social media following does not translate to whatever other medium you're going into. So, for
Mm,
example, on social media, I could be popular for doing my makeup exceptionally well. And then
mm,
now you put me on a breakfast show on radio where I need to tackle current affairs.
mm,
I mean, you just threw me into the bush, into the fire. You threw me into the
mm,
fire. How do I then tackle a matter that has to do with current affairs? Where do I even begin? Because my expertise is on makeup.
mm,
So if you're then telling me about, I don't know, maybe the GDP of SA versus the rest of the African continent versus Europe versus um, Asia, and you talk
mm,
about China's influence, hey, I switch off because
mm,
now you are talking about things that I would really never understand because I made sure that I spend my time and energy into makeup, and my passion is makeup, which
mm,
is really exceptional.
mm,
So I think, again, the problem comes there when you take someone who's popular for one thing and throw them into another thing expecting the same result, which is
mm,
how then all of yeah, I would say all these mediums are dying. That you take a makeup artist, obviously someone who's popular on social media with an Instagram following of maybe like 1 million followers. And then as a makeup artist, I'm now a club DJ. My makeup will not translate into how I play because my passion is makeup. It's not DJing. But again, how do you blame the makeup artist for not taking up the opportunity to become a DJ? Because it's there. Why should they turn down those opportunities when you're being offered all these opportunities and more money?
Yeah, no,
So
that's
you see
yeah.
that it's a tricky one because damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, in these times when people are being retrenched left, right, and center, if I'm a makeup artist that's popular on Instagram and I get a radio show, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll figure things out there. I mean,
yeah.
because at the end of the day, why should a person turn down an opportunity? They didn't make the decision to be put on radio. So when an opportunity comes by, they must grab it. It's just unfortunate that, yeah, there are consequences to those type of decisions because then it kills the entire culture. And then you get someone who's exceptional. You know, they are trained in radio, they understand radio inside out, but they've got 100 followers. And then they never get to be on radio.
Yeah, no, it's sad, but that's a deep that's a topic that we must discuss another day because it's deep. Uh, Fred, who's Refilo Mudise. Sorry, bro, for butchering your surname. How can I mess up such a simple surname, Mudise? He says,
Coconut.
who are your favorite radio personalities? Purely on talent, credibility, and uniqueness. I think earlier on she mentioned Glenn Lewis, but yeah, you can mention others.
Yeah, I'm seeing her comment that she was not listening earlier on.
It's a
So
guy
yeah,
actually.
what
Refilling Mudisa is a
woo,
guy.
excuse me. I thought it's a girl. My bad. Okay, so I did mention earlier on that one of the radio personalities that I really look up to is Glenn Lewis. And I gave the reason that I used to listen to him from the time I was in primary school, excuse me, when I went to high school, varsity, when I started working, and little did I know that I would then start working with him. And by the way, Mkaya, he's also from Pimville. So yeah, Pimville just has, that unique talent. I'm kidding. Yeah, so that was definitely one radio personality that I looked up to. The other one, he's late. May his soul rest in peace, Ukabzela. I loved what Kabzela did, especially for someone like me who's regarded as the coconut of some sort. What he did was exceptional because as a guy from Ekasi who didn't exactly have, the Model C education, he took over a slot and he brought himself into it. He didn't use the fact that he didn't go to a Model C school as a disadvantage. And what I loved about him is that his passion outshone all, maybe like everything that he was lacking. I remember there was a term that he used to use, which was Popeyes. And it became funny because he didn't realize that in the correct English context, it's called cartoons. But remember that Tina Botakisibiza Popeye. So he
Yeah.
kept on referring to Popeyes and all of that. So things like that can be overlooked where talent is present. But if there's no talent, that was something that could have actually affected his career. So he was very talented in that he was able to connect to people on every level. Whether someone was an accomplished doctor with a PhD, he could raise to the occasion. And if someone was just, a guy ama fruits at the corner, he could bring himself down. He was a type of guy that was giving us radio like no other. I recall he had a segment where he would speak to guys in prisons. I've never heard anyone doing that. On Sundays, he would dedicate like an hour to just speaking to prison inmates, encouraging them, talking to them. And You know, that's why I'm saying people like that, you know, where there's passion, you'll be able to go into areas that are untouched. And
Mm,
that's what he did. So those are the type of people that really encouraged me, you know, before I got into radio. And once I was in radio, one of the people, actually it's two people, I always make a joke and I say it's like it's the same person. They just switch
mm,
and then they have a different face, which is Thibaut Touch and DJ Pruluv.
mm,
They are very similar in terms of the approach to many things. What I love about them was their hustle. They're real hustlers. They go all out to make things happen. I recall working with Thibaut Touch as someone who was so accomplished. I mean, he had already bagged the live TV show. He was already having concerts. He was bringing international artists into South Africa. You know, he was so accomplished. But I will never forget what Touch would do on the show. Ne? As much as I would produce the show, have the show ready, Thibaut Touch would be on air and he would see someone prominent passing by the window. Thibaut Touch would not mind dropping or going to ads or cutting his link short so that he could leave the studio, run outside the studio, go to that person and beg them to be on radio. How many presenters do you
mm,
know that would do that? Actually, right now, I don't know
mm,
of any. So you see, that's why I
mm,
say that in terms of passion, you can tell where you are willing to swallow your pride to do whatever it is to make sure that you become a success. So someone like him,
mm,
I mean, Touch, I know he's crazy, very crazy.
mhm,
He was annoying at times, but one thing that I absolutely, absolutely loved about him was that he was willing to do anything and everything to make sure that his show was a success. And he did exactly that. Touch was willing to spend all his salary just to make sure that we get whatever element would make the show work. Touch was willing
mhm,
to stay up all night to make the show work. So, you know, when you work with someone like that who's so passionate, I
mm,
mean, there's such endless opportunities. You guys can go crazy with all
mm.
these ideas, which is why I believe the touchdown was the success that it was. Because when you've got, I mean, the presenter and the producer are the most important people in a show. So when you've got those two dynamics where both of you guys want to go all the way out. You're willing to do anything. You want to be different. You're passionate. You're willing to even bleed to make sure that the show is a success. Trust you me. Then, yeah, things happen. Things really happen. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
those are the people that really um, encourage me and influence me.
we've got about 6 minutes left. Quickly answer these questions, ne? Sfiso Prime Guy
Okay.
wants to know: do you think that mainstream radio will eventually be phased out by podcasts? With that tailor-made relevance and preference, podcasts, ne?
In South Africa, I don't think so. We are not at that level of uh, putting things on like internet radio podcasts. We're not at that stage as yet, simply because our data costs are ridiculous. So who would then leave something that is free and then opt to pay to listen to something that you could have listened to on a free radio station? So I don't think we are very close to that happening. No.
Yeah, and Real Shandapal also is asking a similar question. She's saying, there are so many restrictions when it comes to radio. What is your take on online radio?
Yeah, I mean, mainstream radio, at the end of the day, I started off in community radio and I got into commercial radio, and you see the world of difference between the two, because obviously to be a commercial radio station, it means that there are major costs that come with that. And if there are major costs, you need to make your business profitable. I think now we are all seeing how businesses are closing down, schools are closing down because they're not able to sustain themselves during these tough times of lockdown. So commercial radio stations are more about profit, versus a commercial radio station which can seem to sustain itself even under difficult economic times. So I think that's why there's so many restrictions, so that they are able then to make the money that is needed. Whereas community radio stations are quite lenient because they're not pushing the money. They're about the community. Whereas commercial radio stations are about pulling advertising. So that's the difference. So in terms of online radio stations, yeah, they're not really dependent on the investors, and profitability is not their primary aim. I'm not saying that the other radio stations don't want to be profitable, but it's not their primary aim, whereas commercial radio stations are obviously profit driven. So in terms of online radio stations, yes, they'll definitely survive. But the problem, again, like I'm saying, in terms of our data costs in South Africa, it's really, really difficult for them to be sustainable long term until data prices drop. Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Okay, no, good answer. And we haven't even touched the DJing part yet. But what 3 minutes I have to talk about the music, because this is a very house music driven platform. What
Yes.
are your top songs right now that you love playing or on your sets?
Okay, so in terms of music, I
We
think
have we have, we have
lockdown.
2 minutes, by the way. 2 minutes, yeah.
Okay, so because of lockdown, I've now gotten I took a moment to go back to the classic house. So songs like Something About You. Actually, I was playing a mix today of some of my favorite songs, London Roots, Yo, Pure Surprise. Those are the songs that I'm definitely jamming to right now. The classic house. That's the
Mm.
flavor for me right now.
Yeah, okay, cool. And which genre do you think is gonna rock South Africa this December?
Hey, I think it's gonna be we're going back to Soulful House. I think that's definitely what's gonna be quite big in December. I mean, I know Mapiano, just like Boom, those are popular genres within, they're actually popular sub-genres within house music. They have their period, but they tend to then be phased out. So I think Soulful House is a genre that's going to be popping.
All right, cool, man. Look, a minute left. Thank you so much for doing the interview. And
Thank you.
like I think you just inspired me today, and I'm sure you inspired a lot of people that were watching. And what I
Thank
take from this is
you.
that in everything that you do, you need to be prepared, take your time, school yourself, be patient, have passion, and yeah, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that you just wanna say before Instagram cuts us?
Yeah, man, I just want to tell people out there that I know during lockdown, it's been a very tough period for most of us. But yeah, man, don't lose hope. Depression is real. I was also diagnosed with depression over 10 years ago. So just try to keep the fire burning and yeah, never lose hope. Never, ever, ever give up in life. I mean, times will change. I know right now we feel like it's the end of the world. It is not. After lockdown, things will start picking up again. So keep the hope, keep alive, and follow your passion, man. Always follow your passion. It will take you places.
Wow, thank you, man. And in closing, I'm just gonna close with a real underscore Shandapel's comment that she just posted now. She says she's a DJ, by the way. I
Yes.
once played a set hip hop before Pruluv. She played similar set after me, then boom into Kwaito, then boom into house. She got me thinking, Batoon, can one be so versatile in an hour? Yeah.
I actually love playing those versatile mixes where I go from classic house to my piano to commercial house. I do that all the time. It's all about having fun, man.
Mm. Okay. No, man. We salute you, ne? Good night and keep
Thank
warm.
you.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, you too. And thank you for the
Th-
opportunity. Truly appreciate it.
and thank you for being on. And for everybody that watched the whole interview, thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Thank
Bye. See
you.
you guys next week.